My name is Lizzi Heydemann. I'm the rabbi at Mishkan Chicago, a spiritual community in the city of Chicago. Shabbat is probably our biggest, most important holiday. And it is the fourth commandment. You know, it's right up there along with not murdering and stealing and lying and cheating and coveting. Which means there's something moral about it. Something moral about keeping Shabbat, about a day of rest. I've often wondered, what does a day of rest have to do with being a good person? You know, what is relaxing, putting my feet up, reading a book, singing, getting together with people and praying? What does that have to do with being a good person? And then I learned about the idea of the Eruv. The Torah doesn't say anything about an Eruv. In fact, the tradition tells us that the laws surrounding the Eruv, this idea that on Shabbat, the whole community becomes like one big house around which there's some kind of a barrier, a fence, or a string, or some kind of thing that demarcates an area in which these people observing Shabbat in this area are as if they are in one big house. And the reason why we do that is because we're not supposed to carry things from house to house to house to house. So if we all live in one big house, we're just carrying from room to room. Torah doesn't say anything about this. And the rabbis of the Talmud who invented this say these laws are, like the weight of a mountain hanging by the legitimacy of a hair. But why did they create these rules? They're often called a halachic fiction, something that is like almost an imaginary construct to live inside of for one day, for 25 hours. A lot of Shabbat is a kind of mental leap. The idea that today, for one day, we live in a perfect world and not a world we need to work in and make better, but rather a world that's actually already really, really good, perfect even, a little taste of the world to come. That's Shabbat. And it is a mental leap. It is a mental stretch. And so is the idea of an Eruv, in which all of our separate houses and apartments, separated by streets and alleyways and stores and thoroughfares, but somehow are all imagined as part of one very big house. What an illusion. And then I got to thinking, no, actually the illusion is what we live with the other 6 days of the week. The really important things, we do all share. We do all breathe the same air. We do all drink the same water from the same water systems. If something happens in our collective house, something catastrophic happens, it affects all of us. And this is the reality of life. This is not a fiction of life. This is actually the truth of life. And it's only really on Shabbat when we create an Eruv, a mixture of all of our homes and lives as if in one big house, that we get to feel what it feels like to really live so connected to the people around us and feel what it feels like to be a little more one with them. During the 6 days of the week, we all do our thing, we're all living our lives, and we kind of pretend that our lives are separate. And usually that's an illusion that works for us. But increasingly, I think the idea that we are all connected, that we are all inside of one big house together, and in that house, we have to seek perfection and create perfection, because if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it for us. We're all in this house together. That's actually the moral imperative of Shabbat, is feeling and living like we really all are in one big house. That if we don't clean it up together, nobody else is going to do it. And if we don't smile at each other, nobody else is going to smile. This is our house to take care of, our home, our world. And on Shabbat, we get to really feel what it feels like to make it perfect and then take that perfection with us out into the world that so needs to live that reality too.